Welcome back. We are going to do a tutorial on one of my best sellers. These are my beach glasses and they have just done very well for me, but I wanted to share this with you. So previously I kind of showed you, I take my glass, I put it in my drill press, sand the bottoms, and then clean them with a 91% alcohol. So now they're dry, they're ready to go. And for 4 glasses, you will need 1.5 ounces of epoxy mixed up here, just clear epoxy. And you will need some sand. You'll need a tablespoon measure plastic, and I recycle everything. These are my lids from all my containers that we get food out of. They make great little trays, and once it's dry you can just peel the stuff off and reuse them. So I'm going to go ahead and take our epoxy here. Oh, by the way, let me step back here for 2 seconds. If this looks like it's at a tilt, it is. Got it at about a 15-degree tilt. I want my sand to move to one side of the glass so that when I pour in my water, we'll pour that on level. We'll have this beautiful beach area to work with. So anyway, here we go. Let's go ahead and I retain just a little bit of my epoxy in my container just in case I get my mixture just a little too thick. This is trial and error, guys. I like it thick. I'm going to pour my sand in here because we're going to need 1 tablespoon per glass. This next up, this is a little thin. So right now, if you can see, it's dripping. Hold on. See if I get this over here. You can see better. It's dripping. It's thick. I want a little bit more. So I want it to go into my teaspoon and slide out, but I don't want it too thin. So here, this looks just about perfect. So see, it'll still run off. It'll still run off. But it's kind of like putty. Alright. And I drop that down into the center of the glass. Scrape it out of the bottom of my tablespoon. Okay. Go ahead and mix up the rest of this here. 2 more. And it's this with the heat gun. Do a quick pop of the bubbles in the sand. Take a paper towel, clean this off, then wipe it down with some alcohol before it sets up, and you'll be able to reuse it. So I give that about 30 minutes to set up a little bit before you put your shells and items in, and then we will let that set for our next stage. Be back here in a couple of minutes. Okay, so I've waited about 30 minutes. You know, it's still very pliable and everything along that line. I can still work with it. I take my skewers, take a long skewer here that you get, I think they're for food at Dollar Tree. I then take this putty that's on the end is just your putty, the molding putty, the type that you're supposed to bake, but I don't bake, and I found that it works so nice to pick up my shells and put them down into my glasses. I found these and I love these, my little starfish. And I lay them out, pick one up, so we just barely touch it, and then just place it here at the edge, and when it's ready, you just tap it and it'll set right down into your sand. And the same thing with my tiny little shells that I've collected. So there's all different ones here. Place a few shells in here. It was a little small. If you do this too soon, your shells will just sink to the bottom. They'll go right through the sand. So that's why you want to make sure that you wait a little while to put those in. Oh, one of each of those. Some different ones in here. I don't know if you've noticed what these are. I save all my old meat trays to talk about recycling. These are great to lay your shells out, to be able to see them and work, slide them around when you're working with them. And place some more in there. So that's it. You're just gonna now let those set and dry, and then we will go on to the next step. Okay, I'm back. Epoxy's done. So now you'll notice in my glasses, I have a lot more epoxy than what you need, but I am doing other glasses also than just these four. If this epoxy looks a little yellow, the reason for that is that when I'm using my mica powders, I'm able to use the super clear tabletop epoxy that's actually made for darker mica powders. So that's why it looks like it's a little bit yellow, because it won't matter. Once I put my colors in, it won't have any bearing on it. So now I've gone back and I've mixed me up quickly some regular super clear tabletop, which is what I really like to use for anything that's going to be clear, or I'm going to put a light colorant in it because it's going to keep those colors crystal clear. So before I do that, I kind of come in here and I take a quick swirl in my epoxy. So I kind of get those colors kind of softly swirled in. Bring the darker blue up to the lighter blue. It's going to blend some more when we hit our heat gun to it, but this just kind of gives it a start for blending. Just Go ahead and mix up a little bit of white here. Okay, so we're going to put the clear right over the top of the shells here. And let that drizzle on down in. Just take a skewer I've kind of put a point to. Put a little bit on here. Then we're going to add our waves. And let it sit. Let them dry. Okay, we're at the final coat here. I'm going to mix ourselves up some clear epoxy. I always add a little UV inhibitor by directions of Super Clear. I'll add a picture of that container here later. I do that because this will allow my epoxy to last an extremely long time without yellowing. It really does help tremendously to add that when you're doing clear epoxy. So it's approximately half an ounce per glass, and just basically you're just gonna pour it in there till everything's covered. Cover them up, let them set up, you're done.